Hey guys, tonight we drift back to a time when Europe wasn't just dimly lit, it was dimly hopeful. You're standing barefoot in the year 1347, smack in the middle of a crowded medieval city that smells like old cheese and wet fur. And somewhere not too far off, a bell is ringing not because it's time for dinner, but because someone just died. Again, this is your home now. A maze of muddy alleys, crumbling timber houses leaning in like gossiping neighbors, and livestock that's somehow braver than most people. The streets, they're a blend of manure, spoiled food, and something suspiciously red. You're pretty sure you just stepped on something that used to be edible. You're also pretty sure that rat staring at you knows something you don't. The year of rats indeed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing how far we've traveled tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up to the sound of coughing. Not the polite I need water kind, but the chest-rattling, soul-leaking kind. It's your neighbor. He was fine yesterday. Today his face is pale, his lips are purple, and he just vomited on his own boots. You're not a doctor, but you have a bad feeling about this. You shift slightly on your straw mattress, trying to convince yourself it's just one of those medieval bugs going around. You know the kind that only kills half the village. The thing is, people here have been whispering about something strange. About ships from the east. About Genoese sailors with black boils on their necks. About entire towns that went quiet in a week. Of course, rumors spread fast in a place with no Wi-Fi and too much free time. Still, you can't help but feel that cold, creeping fear, like something ancient is making its way toward you. You push open the shutters of your wooden hovel. The street outside is already awake. Vendors screaming about stale bread, a boy chasing chickens, and a woman dumping what you really hope is dirty water into the gutter. The air is thick, heavy, a mix of smoke body odor and damp rot. Somewhere someone's burning sage. It smells hopeful, but hope is cheap here. And then you see it, a cart, trundling down the street, pulled by a donkey who looks like he's seen too much. In the cart, 2 bodies, covered, but not quite enough. You catch a glimpse of a waxy arm flopping with every bump. No one follows the cart. No one cries. They've run out of tears. You duck back inside. You're not ready to admit it yet, but something is happening, and it's big. Bigger than the leaky roof. Bigger than the constant hunger. Bigger than the whispers of the king in hiding and nobles fleeing the cities. Your family doesn't talk about the plague, not out loud. It's like naming a demon. Once you speak it, it knows your name. So instead, you talk about bread, or wool, or taxes, which are worse than the plague, some would argue. But tonight, the mood changes. A knock at the door. It's your cousin. Pale. Eyes wild. They're shutting the city gates, he says. No one in. No one out. You stare at him hard in your throat. Not because of what he said, but because he won't stop scratching his armpit. And that's where it starts, isn't it? Historians still argue whether it was the rats, the fleas, the trade routes, or all three like a cursed recipe passed down through 1,000 doomed caravans. What we know. It arrived like a whisper and spread like fire. The night air is thick with the scent of garlic. Everyone believes it wards off disease. So naturally, your house smells like a cursed stew. You smear some under your nose, not because you believe it'll help, but because it's all you've got. You go to bed, listening to the coughs. They echo down the narrow alleyways, rising and falling like a grotesque lullaby. You cover your ears with a threadbare pillow, but the sound worms in anyway. Your last thought before drifting off is whether you'll wake up with a fever or not wake up at all. Morning. Somehow, you're still here. The city isn't. The market's closed. The tavern is locked. The baker's gone. People are missing and no one's talking. A silence hangs in the air like fog. You step outside and count the rats. More than yesterday. Fatter too. You head toward the square. On the wall near the church, someone's nailed a proclamation. You can't read, few can, but someone translates it for you. It says, "The sickness is divine punishment." That sinners are to blame. That prayer is the only cure. Someone behind you mutters that the Jews poisoned the wells. Another says it was a comet. Someone else swears the moon looked wrong last week. Theories are cheap and endless when there's no cure and everyone's scared. You decide not to go back home just yet. The walls feel too close, the air too still. Instead, you walk the long way past the apothecary's shop. He's outside burning herbs in a small fire. The smoke stings your eyes, but you stand there anyway. It feels like protection, or a placebo. But in this world, they're the same thing. And then out of nowhere, a laugh. A boy no more than 6 is chasing a rat with a stick. You want to tell him to stop, to run, to hide, but you don't. Because for a second, the laughter feels like a rebellion, like a protest against the silence. You finally return home. Your neighbor's door is ajar. Inside, silence. You close it quietly. You eat the last of your bread. It's stale, but it's bread. You don't know when the next piece will come. You sit by the window and watch as another cart rolls by. 3 more bodies. One of them looks familiar. You don't cry. You just close your eyes and hope that maybe, just maybe tomorrow, you'll still be alive to smell more garlic. You wake up scratching. It's the kind of itch that feels too deep for fingers, like it's under your skin. Your nails are already raw from last night's scratching, but you go at it anyway, because what else can you do? You tell yourself, it's just the straw mattress. Maybe a flea. Maybe 5. Maybe. You stop thinking about that. Fleas are everywhere. In your clothes. In your bed. Probably in your beard. You try to remember the last time you bathed, then quickly decide not to. Water's too cold and too rare to waste on scrubbing off discomfort anyway. And yet people keep saying it's the air that's killing everyone. Miasma, they call it. Bad air. Thick, corrupted, evil air that slinks into your nostrils and poisons your soul. You're told to keep a bundle of herbs tied to your belt. Lavender, if you can afford it. Onions, if you can't. Either way, it's supposed to filter the sickness. Spoiler, it doesn't. But it does hide the smell of rotting things, which frankly is a victory. The city has started to stink in ways you didn't know possible. Even the animals look concerned. There's a cow that hasn't mooed in 3 days. You walk past it each morning and nod, both of you quietly accepting that reality is broken. A new rumor is spreading now that if you stand in sunlight, the plague won't catch you. So people loiter in patches of light, like cats blinking nervously, as if that small warmth will stop what's coming. Some even smear themselves in crushed rose petals to stay pure. You try it once. It just makes the fleas smell better. Your younger brother comes home coughing. You freeze. It's a soft cough, sure, but there's something about it. The way he turns his head, the look in his eyes. He says it's nothing. He says he choked on a barley husk. You smile and nod and say, "Of course." But you both know. Deep down, you know. That night, he doesn't eat dinner. He lies on the floor and sweats through the rush mat. You sit by the fire staring at a dancing flame that's just as confused as you are. You don't sleep. You just wait. By morning, he's no worse, but he's not better. You leave some water by his side and head outside just to breathe air that doesn't carry the weight of worry. As you step out, you spot a group of boys throwing stones at something. You approach and see the target, a man slumped in an alley moaning. They say he's a leper, or maybe just sick. Either way, he's not long for this world. You look away. Historians still argue whether the primary vector was fleas on rats or fleas on humans. Some say the rats died too quickly to be the main cause. Others insist it had to be the trade routes, the spices, the grain shipments. One theory even suggests it spread through breath alone, airborne despair, basically. You make your way to the bakery. There's no line today. There's no bread either. The baker's son tells you his father fell ill 2 days ago. The oven's gone cold. You stare at it a long time, like maybe the heat will return if you just will it. You leave with a crust that tastes like defeat and ash. Back home, your brother is asleep, still sweating. You add a few sprigs of rosemary under his blanket. Someone told you it helps. Probably the same someone who said garlic works, or bathing in wine. You don't have wine, so rosemary it is. Later that day, someone bangs on your door. It's the parish watch. He's wrapped in a scarf and holding a long stick, like even touching your doorknob would infect him. He announces that your street has been noted and that people should avoid congregating. As if anyone's been in a party mood lately, he tells you to stay inside. You ask how long. He doesn't answer. He just walks off, stick tapping along the cobbles like a metronome of dread. You hear from the neighbor that the graveyard is full. They're burying people in fields now. Some say they're being dumped in rivers. Someone swears they saw monks dragging carts toward the woods. No markers. Just trees for tombstones. You walk to the church that evening. Not for mass, those are canceled, but to sit in the pews. It's quiet, comforting, cold. You stare up at the stained glass windows. Saints frozen in expressions of peace, holding books and crosses, none of them holding their stomachs or coughing blood. Lucky them, a friar sees you and offers a small vial of something pungent. Myrrh, he says. It keeps the devil away. You thank him. You tuck it into your tunic. It leaks. Now your armpit smells like bitter sap. You return home to find your brother sitting up. He says he's hungry. You give him the crust you saved. He eats slowly. You let out the breath you've been holding for 2 days. That night, you hear something outside, a scratching. You light a candle and peek through the shutter. Rats. At least 5 of them. One climbs over a discarded shoe and sniffs at something just out of sight. Probably another body. You make a mental note to nail the door shut tomorrow. You lie back down, wondering if it's all in your head. The itch. The fear. The way everyone you know seems dimmer now, like candles running out of wick. You dream of walking through fog. You can't see your hands. You call out, but no one answers. You wake with a gasp and check your armpits. Still smooth. Still you. You rise and look out the window. The air is golden with morning sun, but it feels fake, like the sky doesn't know what's happening down here. You see a child playing with a spinning top on the edge of the alley. His laughter echoes, and for a second, just a second, it feels like the world isn't broken. But then a scream cuts through the morning. A woman crying for her husband. You don't look. You've heard that sound too many times. You go to fetch water. The well's been roped off. Contaminated, they say. You fill your jug from the river instead. You tell yourself the current washes the sickness away. Your brother helps you carry it home. He's weak, but walking. Maybe it was just a fever. Maybe not everything is the plague. Maybe you sit together by the fire and say nothing. Words feel fragile. The flames crackle. A rat scurries across the ceiling beam. You both follow it with your eyes, but don't react. Tomorrow you'll check the bakery again. Tomorrow you'll look for garlic. Tomorrow you'll breathe. Just once more. Because today, you're still here. The cough comes back. Not from your brother, this time from you. You try to ignore it at first. You clear your throat once, then again, then harder, as if you can shake it loose. You tell yourself, it's just the smoke from last night's fire, or maybe the scratchy bread crust you ate too quickly. But as the hours pass, the cough grows stubborn, sitting deep in your chest like a stone. You don't mention it. Denial, it seems, is the most reliable medicine in 1347. You put on your cloak more holes than fabric now and step into the alley. It rained last night. The ground is slick with mud muck, and, well, let's hope that's just muck. You pick your way carefully around puddles that reflect a gray sky, and you see fewer faces now. Doors are shut, windows boarded, people peering out from behind curtains as if the very air might climb in and steal their lungs, and maybe it will. Down the street, the inn is shuttered. The alewife, who used to yell at passers-by for breathing too loudly, is gone. So are her daughters. So is the smell of boiling stew. Now it smells like mildew and death. A dog howls once and then stops. Even the animals are quieter these days. You're headed to the apothecary again, not because he has answers, but because he has jars. Dozens of them, filled with dried herbs, colored liquids, animal parts suspended in murk. You're not sure what most of them do. Probably nothing, but it's something to look at, something to believe in. He sees you coming and narrows his eyes. You coughing, he asks. You shake your head too quickly. Dust, you say. Just dust. He doesn't believe you, but he lets you in. The shelves are emptier now. Supplies are running out. People have bought every remedy, real or imagined. You ask if he has anything left. He hands you a small pouch of crushed mint and something he calls blessed moss. It smells like disappointment. You give him a silver piece, your last one. He doesn't say thank you, just wipes the coin and drops it into a separate box, contaminated probably. Historians still argue whether local healers helped or harmed during the plague. Some offered herbal poultices and calming oils. Others recommended things like bloodletting leeches, or worse, forcing people to inhale smoke from burning horse dung to balance the humors. You sincerely hope today isn't a horse dung day. As you leave the shop, you spot a figure stumbling down the lane. A man barely dressed arms, flailing like he's fighting off invisible ghosts. He screams once, then drops to his knees. No one moves to help. No one even flinches. You duck into an alcove and wait until the street is quiet again. You feel the cough returning. You hold it in, willing your lungs to behave. Your chest aches with the effort. Back home, your brother's fever is gone. He even managed to sweep the floor. It's a terrible job, but the effort means something. You collapse beside him, exhausted from walking 6 streets and lying constantly about how you feel. That evening, the church bell rings again. Another body. They don't ring it for everyone anymore, just the ones who had names worth remembering. You look out the window and see 2 men in long dark robes carrying a stretcher. On it, a woman, covered in cloth. You recognize the shawl. It belonged to the neighbor who used to bring you broth when your father was ill. There's no ceremony, no prayers, just footsteps heavy and tired, and the sound of the stretcher creaking under weight. You close the window. That night, the cough wakes you. This time, it brings a tightness in your throat, a fire behind your ribs. You sit up coughing into your sleeve, checking for blood. None. Yet. You sip water. It helps for a moment, then doesn't. Your brother stirs, but you tell him you're fine. He doesn't believe you. You hear voices in the street, angry ones. You peek through the shutter and see a crowd, torches, yelling. Something about outsiders, about foreigners bringing death. You recognize the dangerous rhythm of fear. They're heading toward the old merchant's house. He's from the east. His wife speaks with an accent. They have a small garden with garlic and ginger, enough to spark envy and suspicion in a city losing everything. You hear glass breaking. You hear a scream. Then fire. You pull your brother away from the window. The fire doesn't reach your street, but the smoke does. It seeps in under the door, sour and thick. You wrap wet cloths around your faces and wait it out. This is the world now. In the morning, there's ash on the cobblestones. No one talks about the fire. The merchant's house is gone. A blackened hole where something hopeful used to be. You see a pamphlet nailed to a post, written in rough Latin with shaky lettering. Someone reads it aloud. It claims the sickness is caused by sin. that the impure are being punished, that only the righteous will be spared. You look at your hands, dirty, calloused, still trembling from last night's coughing fit. You're not feeling particularly righteous. You try to pray. You sit beside your brother, hold his hand, and say words you barely understand. They come out cracked and dry, but you say them anyway. Later that day, the physician comes through. You know it's him because of the beaked mask. He walks slowly, deliberately, carrying a long cane. He doesn't touch anyone. He just points. Left for quarantine, right for burial. The mask hides his face, but you imagine it's just as tired as yours. He stops at your neighbor's door, knocks, waits. When no one answers, he marks it with red paint and moves on. You hope he doesn't stop at yours. He doesn't. You stay indoors for 2 more days. Your cough eases, then returns, then vanishes again like a tide you can't predict. You eat dry oats, soaked in stale beer. You sleep in shifts, taking turns with your brother to keep watch for rats' fire, or worse silence. On the 4th day, something miraculous happens, a knock on the door. Not the death knock, a polite one. You open it to see an old woman holding a small loaf of bread. She doesn't speak, just nods and walks away. You don't know her name. You don't know where she lives. You split the loaf in half and toast it on the fire. It's the best thing you've eaten in weeks. That night, your cough doesn't return. Maybe it's the bread. Maybe the moss worked. Maybe it's just luck. But for now, you exhale without fear. And you sleep. You're awoken by shouting. Not the desperate kind you're used to, but the structured, practiced bellow of someone used to giving orders and expecting to be obeyed. You rub your eyes, push aside the rat-chewed blanket, and peek through the cracks in the shutter. Down the road, the city guard is marching. Well, marching-ish. It's hard to look imposing when your armor is rusted, your boots are mismatched, and one of your men is clearly carrying a pike upside down. Still, they manage to clear the way as they escort a line of men in tattered clothes, dock workers, mostly toward the harbor. You throw on your cloak and quietly step into the morning fog, careful not to disturb your brother, who is still curled up in what passes for sleep these days. The docks are where this all started, people say. Not this city's necessarily, but docks like it, gates to the sea and to everything beyond it. It's hard to imagine that what's killing your neighbors began with sailors hundreds of miles away, unloading crates of silk spices and death. You arrive at the water's edge. The air is thicker here, tinged with saltfish guts, and a hint of decay that isn't entirely from the catch of the day. You watch as workers unload barrels of grain from a Genoese ship. They handle the cargo like it's cursed. Because maybe it is. A boy nearby tells you that last week, 2 sailors dropped dead right there on the pier. No warning, no final words, just a grunt, a slump, and silence. They were thrown into the water before anyone could ask questions. You back away slowly. Historians still argue whether the plague first entered through Constantinople, Sicily, or the Crimean port of Kaffa. Some claim it arrived via merchant ships, fleeing siege catapults reportedly hurled infected corpses over city walls in one of the earliest examples of biological warfare. Others say it was already here, just waiting for the right conditions. Either way, the docks are always involved. You overhear the guards talking. They're not just escorting workers, they're enforcing a new rule. Nothing comes off the ships unless it's inspected smoked or blessed. You don't know what smoked means in this context, but you've seen barrels held over fires until their wood turns black and the grain inside smells like roasted fear. You pass by a crate that's been pried open and left behind. Inside, more rats. 3 of them, fat, fearless, and sniffing around like they own the place. One stares straight at you, and for a moment, you feel like you're the pest. There's movement up on the main deck. A sailor stumbles out of a cabin, face covered in sweat and blotches. He leans over the railing and heaves something into the sea. The guard rushes to stop him too late. They shout. The man collapses. No one catches him. A bell rings again, this time from the port office. A clerk nails another notice to the main post. You push closer to read it, half listening to the murmurs around you. The notice says, "Effective, immediately trade with infected ports is suspended. Ships arriving from the east will remain at anchor for 40 days. Quarantine." The word hasn't been used much yet, but you know what it means. Wait. Watch. Hope the sickness stays on board. You wonder how many rats can swim 40 days. Back in the city, word spreads faster than the plague. Everyone's suddenly a shipping expert. Someone says the sailors brought poisoned cloth. Another swears it's the spices. Someone claims the papacy is behind it all, trying to punish sinners by using foreign diseases. The tavern has reopened for the first time in weeks. Though now, you're expected to sit 3 stools apart and drink behind a cloth mask that smells like wine-soaked sack. You slip inside, hoping for news, or maybe just warmth. The barkeep gives you a nod, pours something that used to be beer, and says, "You hear, they burned a whole ship in Marseille." You shake your head. Sailed in full of sick men. No one got off. They lit it from the dock. Watched it burn for 2 days. You sip your drink. It tastes like fear with a hint of mold. That night, as you head home, you hear music. Real music. For the first time in ages. A small group of minstrels is playing in the square. Their clothes are worn, their faces thin, but their fingers still dance across strings like nothing's changed. People gather, not close, but close enough. Children sway. An old man claps once, twice, then breaks into tears. You stay until the last note fades. When you finally return to your street, something feels off. A cart sits by the alley corner abandoned. A trail of liquid red-brown, hard to tell, leads into your neighbor's house. The door is open. You don't go in. Instead, you sit outside your own home and wait. Just sit. The stars above seem duller. The moon seems unsure. Your brother opens the door and sits beside you. He's holding a piece of old cloth, once white, now yellowed with a child's drawing on it. He doesn't say where it came from. You don't ask. You both sit in silence. Then, as if on cue, A ship's bell rings faintly from the harbor. You picture it in the dark, rocking gently full of goods no one wants, and sailors no one will save. And somewhere in that damp belly of wood and rope, something small and black scurries across the deck, still surviving, still spreading, still here. You wake up to the sound of metal scraping on wood. It's still dark out, and for a terrifying second, you think it's another cart coming for bodies. But then you recognize the slow, rhythmic creaking. It's the city physician making his rounds again. You peer through the cracked shutter and catch a glimpse of the iconic figure, long black robe, heavy gloves, and that beaked mask looming through the fog like some nightmarish stork. He taps each door with the end of his cane, pausing only when there's no answer. He's not a real doctor, of course, not in the way you think of them, but in a city half dead and entirely desperate, he's what people cling to. You've heard he studied in Paris, or maybe he was just a barber who found a mask and a sense of purpose. No one knows. No one really asks. The beak is stuffed with herbs, lavender mint, sometimes myrrh. Not because it protects him, but because it masks the stench. Death doesn't smell like anything you can describe. It's not just rot. It's wet fabric, cold iron, and something metallic beneath the skin. You decide to follow him, not up close, of course. No one gets close. But you trail from a distance wrapped in your frayed cloak, staying to the shadows. The streets are nearly empty. Those who can afford to have fled to the countryside. Those who can't stay indoors and pretend they're already gone. The physician pauses at a door across the alley. He marks it with a chalk X. That's the third house this week. You know the family there. You shared broth with them once. You even borrowed a pot and never returned it. You suddenly feel ashamed. Historians still debate how much these plague doctors helped. Some carried basic remedies, rosewater vinegar-soaked cloths, or theriac paste made from a 64-ingredient recipe that included viper flesh and powdered pearls. Others bled their patients with leeches or prescribed urine as a mouth rinse. Yes, really. You stop following him when he reaches the central square. There beneath the statue of the saint with his fingers broken off, he lays down his satchel. A small line forms. People appear like ghosts, hooded, hunched, whispering. One by one, they approach, describe symptoms, hand over coins or stale bread, and receive something. Herbs, powders, words of comfort. You're not sure which matters more. You recognize one of the waiting figures, a woman named Isabetta. Her son died last week. Now she's back pale as paper, holding a cloth to her mouth. She catches your eye and gives a weak smile. You want to go to her to say something kind, but your feet don't move. You return home before dawn, bones aching. Your brother is still asleep, clutching that same yellowed cloth from the night before. You stare at the embers in the hearth and try not to think about the marked door across the alley. Later that day, a new decree is announced by order of the mayor, who may or may not still be alive. Every home must have garlic hanging at the entrance. The city's herbalists are delighted. The rats probably are too. You string together your last cloves and tie them above your door. It looks ridiculous. It smells worse. But it gives you a false sense of control, and these days that's worth its weight in gold. In the afternoon, a strange noise rolls through the city, chanting. You look out and see them. Dozens of men walking barefoot backs, bare whipping themselves with leather cords. Their flesh is raw. Some of them cry as they march. Others sing. It's haunting and oddly rhythmic, like a morbid lullaby. You've heard of them, the flagellants. They believe the plague is divine punishment, and the only way to atone is through pain. They move from town to town, spreading fear, sometimes spreading the plague, always spreading questions. Some call them saints. Others call them mad. One of them stops in front of your home. He stares at your door, at the garlic at you. He mutters something about purification, then lashes himself once more and moves on. You don't sleep that night. You sit by the fire, turning your brother's cloth, drawing over in your hands. It's of a house, a sun, two stick figures, a dream of normalcy, drawn in a world that forgot what normal looks like. The next morning, your cough returns. Just a single dry wheeze. But you feel it. The weight in your chest. The heat behind your eyes. You don't tell your brother. Instead, you walk to the square again. The physician is gone today, but someone else is there, a seller of plague cures. He stands atop a barrel shouting about his miracle tonic made from wine-crushed emeralds and the tears of a nun. People line up. Desperation smells like coin. You stay at the edge of the crowd. A young man downs the tonic vomits and is cheered by onlookers who believe that's a good sign. You leave quietly. Historians still puzzle over some of these medieval cures. Some remedies might have had mild antiseptic properties. Others, like eating crushed sapphires or bathing in vinegar-laced urine, seemed designed more to confuse than to heal. But what mattered most was belief. Belief gave comfort. And sometimes, that was enough. You return home and boil water with mint leaves. It doesn't cure anything, but it soothes your throat. You pretend it's helping. That night, the physician returns to your street. This time, he walks slower, tired. He stops at your neighbor's door, again this time with two assistants. They carry a stretcher. You turn away before they emerge. In the morning, you find a sprig of rosemary on your doorstep. No note. Just the herb neatly wrapped in cloth. You smile. Someone remembers. Someone cares. You hang it next to the garlic. The cough lingers, but you endure. Because for now, the door has no X, and that's enough. You wake to a knock. Not the sharp rap of a city official, not the thud of a cart, but a gentle, almost polite tap. Like someone asking for shelter or forgiveness. You pause breath, held then, step to the door and open it just a crack. It's Thomas. You haven't seen him in weeks, not since the schoolmaster coughed blood onto his desk mid-sentence. Thomas looks thinner, his cheeks hollowed out, hair matted, and eyes darting with a kind of wild brightness. He's wearing a travel cloak caked in dust, and behind him, a small bundle of belongings rests like he's been walking for days. I'm leaving, he says, before you can ask. The city's cursed. I'm heading inland. North. There's a village up near the hills. They say the plague hasn't reached it. You say nothing for a long moment. Then alone, he nods. No one else can. Most are too sick or too scared. You think about it. Running. It has crossed your mind more times than you'll admit. The thought of fresh air, of wide open space of escape, it gnaws at the back of your skull every time another bell tolls. But you look at your brother sleeping near the hearth with his weak limbs and growing cough, and you know you can't leave. Still part of you wants to. Thomas grips your arm before he goes. If I make it, I'll come back. Find you. You doubt he will. You doubt you'll be here. By noon, others have the same idea. A slow trickle of townsfolk, mostly young, mostly strong, start drifting out. Some carry food. Others just hope. A family with 3 children boards an old wagon. A widow on crutches hobbles toward the city gates, muttering prayers with every step. But the gates, they're already closing. The guards are under orders now. No one in, no one out. Not unless you bribe them or know someone, which you don't. You watch as one man tries to force his way through shouting about his mother in the next village. The guard knocks him back with the blunt end of a spear. He lies in the mud screaming, then sobbing, then quiet. You return home colder than before. Your brother is awake barely. He asks for water. His lips are dry. His eyes look distant. You hand him the cup and try not to shake. That night, the rats come again. This time, they're braver. One of them actually skitters across the floor near your sleeping brother. You leap up and hurl a wooden spoon missing by a mile. The rat doesn't even flinch, just stares, then disappears beneath the woodpile like it owns the place. You decide tomorrow you'll try to flee. Historians still argue about the flight from cities. Some believe it helped survivors avoid plague hotspots. Others argue it only spread the disease faster, sending carriers into healthy regions like sparks from a fire. But at the time, the logic was simple. Anywhere is safer than here. You pack a sack, some oats, a water skin, the leftover mint your brother's drawing. You wake him gently. He resists at first, groggy, confused, but then sees your face drawn desperate and doesn't argue. The streets are almost too quiet now. Even the rats seem subdued. You stick to side alleys, avoiding patrols clinging to shadows. You pass abandoned homes, their doors swinging open in the breeze, belongings scattered like forgotten dreams. At the edge of the city, near the old mill, you see others. A group huddled around a broken cart. A man sharpening a stick. A mother nursing an infant with sunken cheeks. You approach cautiously. One of them gestures for you to stop. Sick, he asks. You shake your head. Prove it. You don't know how. There's no test. No clean bill of health. Just trust or lack of it. He finally waves you through, and you slip past the last buildings onto the narrow dirt road leading into the woods. It feels like breathing for the first time in weeks. You walk for hours, your brother leaning on you more often than not. His steps slow, his breath raspy, but still, it's movement. progress. You find shelter beneath an old tree stump near dusk. The leaves above shiver in the wind. The air smells clean. No smoke, no garlic. Just earth and damp moss. You boil oats over a tiny fire. Your brother eats half, then curls into your side. You listen to the night sounds, owls, frogs, rustling branches, and feel a strange kind of hope. Like maybe you're out pacing the sickness, but you're not. In the morning, your brother doesn't rise. His skin is warm, too warm. He shivers even under your cloak. He tries to speak, but only coughs. You know this rhythm by now. You're still too close. The plague reaches beyond gates and walls. It's in the air, the blood, the breath. You lift him onto your back and keep walking. Hours pass, then a day, then another. You find a hamlet nestled between two hills. It's small, maybe a dozen houses and a stone chapel. Smoke curls from chimneys. Chickens cluck. You see children. It looks untouched. You approach slowly, waving a cloth like a white flag. A woman emerges wary. She sees you, sees your brother. She doesn't run, but she doesn't smile. She nods once and beckons. She leads you to a small shed behind her house. It's clean, sparse, but safe. You stay here, she says. If he lives, we talk again. You nod. You don't expect help. But this is more than you hoped for. She returns an hour later with broth. You whisper thanks. That night, you feed your brother by hand, cool his forehead with river water, and watch the stars from the open roof slats. For the first time in days, he smiles, only briefly, but it's enough. You wake to birdsong, not the squawk of city crows circling over corpses, but soft warbles and chirps, the kind that speak of morning dew and green leaves and worms freshly plucked from soil. It's been so long since you've heard that sound clearly that for a moment you wonder if you're still dreaming. Then your brother coughs. You turn quickly. He's awake, barely. His face is pale and slick with sweat, and when he tries to speak, only a croak comes out. Still, his eyes are open. And for now, that's something. The woman returns with another bowl of broth. She sets it down without a word. You start to thank her, but she holds up a hand. Keep him quiet, she whispers. The others are frightened. You nod. Inside the village, fear flows, just beneath the surface, like an underground stream, always threatening to burst through. People glance at you through shutters. Children are pulled away by mothers as you pass. No one throws stones, but no one offers smiles either. Still, you're here, and he's alive. By the third day, he sits up. You talk softly. He asks about the city, about the ships, the physician, the rats. You tell him what you can, skipping the worst of it. He remembers the songs the minstrels played in the square. You hum them back to him off-key, and he laughs until he coughs again. But laughter is rare these days. Even a half laugh is a miracle. You learn that this village has been mostly spared, for now. A handful of deaths, yes, but nothing like the cities. They've blocked the main road with a felled tree, forbidden travelers, and pray constantly, and yet they let you stay. Historians still debate why some villages were untouched while others were decimated. Was it pure isolation, geography luck, or something else entirely? Some suggest altitude played a role. Others argue it was about community structure. A few whisper it was divine selection. No one agrees. The woman tells you her name is Marga. She's lost 3 brothers in the last year. Now she watches over the village like a hawk stern, unflinching, but not unkind. She brings you herbs, old linen for bandages, a whetstone for your knife. You help her gather water one afternoon, and she tells you quietly, they think it's punishment. For our sins. You ask what sins. She doesn't answer. That evening, the church bell rings. You didn't know they had one. It calls everyone to the square, not for mass, but for a sermon. The priest is young, thinner than his robes, with shaking hands and a voice just barely steady. He talks of judgment, of wrath, of sacrifice. He says the plague is a lesson, and the survivors are its students. You're not sure what the lesson is. Your brother stands beside you, leaning on your arm. He watches the priest with tired eyes, lips pressed tight. When the sermon ends, he turns to you and says, "Do you think God's watching all this?" You say nothing, because whether he is or isn't, neither answer feels comforting. That night, the flagellants arrive. They don't knock. They don't ask. 12 of them, barefoot and bloodied, march into the village as if pulled by invisible chains. Some chant. Others scream. Their whips slice the night air, cracking like thunder. You watch from the shed, eyes wide, heart pounding. Marga meets them at the village edge. "You're not welcome," she says. One of them steps forward. His face is streaked with tears and dried blood. He says, "We come to cleanse." Marga doesn't move. "We're already clean." There's a long silence. Then the flagellants pass through anyway, slow and deliberate. They circle the chapel strip to the waist and begin again, singing, crying, whipping. Your brother whispers, "What if they're right?" You shake your head. They don't look like salvation. Historians still argue about the flagellant movements. Did they spread the plague by traveling from town to town, bleeding and wailing? Or did they slow its spread by inspiring repentance and caution? Some towns welcomed them. Others banished them, or worse. But no one who saw them ever forgot. By morning, the flagellants are gone. Just like that, they leave behind smears of blood on the chapel steps, a broken lute string, an unease that lingers like fog. Life in the village resumes. You help Marga repair a fence. Your brother collects kindling. You barter a scrap of cloth for carrots. It almost feels normal, and yet a heaviness remains. You've seen too much to trust peace. One afternoon, a boy approaches your shed. He's no older than 7, with dirt-smudged cheeks and a cautious expression. He carries a small wooden toy, a carved horse with a missing leg. He hands it to your brother without a word. Your brother smiles. Then something cracks in you, not loudly, just a small, subtle fracture, a reminder that kindness still exists, and that makes it even harder to bear how rare it is. That night, you wake to distant thunder. But it's not thunder, It's coughing from the village. You sit up. Listen. There it is again. Wet, heavy, unmistakable. Not one cough. Several. You step outside. Lamps are lit in 2 houses. A dog barks. Then silence. You go back inside. Your brother is asleep. You sit in the dark, heart hammering. It's here. Again. You don't sleep. In the morning, Marga doesn't come. You wait until noon, then go to her house. The door is open. Her table is overturned. Her herbs scattered. She lies in bed, eyes closed, breath shallow. You step back quietly. You tell no one, because you know what comes next. The rats find you again. You spot them at dusk. 3 of them this time, perched on the fence post near the shed like sentinels. Their eyes gleam in the fading light, unblinking, almost intelligent. You throw a stone. They scatter, but you know they'll return. They always do. You go back inside. Your brother is asleep, his breathing quiet, and even for now. But Marga is still heavy on your mind. The memory of her pale skin, the overturned stool, the scent of her spilled herbs. She didn't move when you called her name, didn't even twitch. You hadn't meant to look in truly. You only wanted to know if she was all right. You never wanted to see her like that, already halfway between this world and whatever waits beyond. You sit at the doorway, trying to think. Should you tell someone? Should you flee again? But where the roads are watched, the gates shut the forest, thick and cruel. The truth sinks into you slowly, a little more each hour. The plague has reached even here. You help the village mend fences and carry water like nothing's changed. No one talks about the coughs, but you hear them too last night from the house across the field. One this morning, muffled behind a shutter. A pattern emerging like a stain. You catch the priest watching you. He doesn't speak, but his gaze lingers longer than it should, flickering between your face and the shed. You nod respectfully, but inside a tight knot coils in your chest. By afternoon, Marga's house is quiet. No smoke from the chimney. No movement behind the curtains. You walk past it, slowly, forcing yourself not to look. The village children no longer play near the chapel. Instead, they linger near their homes. Their laughter subdued, movements stiff. Their parents whisper at windows, casting glances your way, like you're a question they don't want answered. You spend the evening gathering wood. It gives your hands something to do, while your mind races in circles. Historians still wonder how plague persisted in isolated villages long after city outbreaks had peaked. Was it carried in fabric? In animals? In travelers who showed no symptoms until it was too late? Some researchers believe it lingered in fleas, hidden in hay, in grain sacks, in clothing. Bundles passed from one house to the next, like a gift no one wanted. When you return to the shed, your brother is awake. He's fiddling with the carved toy horse the village boy gave him. The broken leg dangles awkwardly, and yet he cradles it like treasure. "I think we need to leave again," you whisper. He doesn't look up. "Where would we go?" he asks, his voice dry. You don't have an answer. That night, you dream of rats. Not the regular kind, but massive, long as dogs, their eyes glowing red as they crawl through the village, dragging Plague behind them like smoke. In the dream, one speaks to you in a voice that sounds like Marga's. It says, "There is nowhere left." You wake gasping, fingers clenched in your blanket. You check on your brother, still sleeping, still breathing. You step outside, needing air, and spot something moving near Marga's door. A figure hunched and wrapped in a shawl slips from her house and disappears into the woods. You follow feet, silent on the damp grass, the cold air biting at your face. The figure moves fast, too fast for an old woman. When you catch up, you see it's the priest. He's kneeling before a tree stump, muttering rapidly, hands shaking. A small bundle sits before him, dried herbs, feathers a scrap of parchment with strange markings. You step on a twig. He turns sharply. For a long moment, you stare at each other. Then he says, "She was my sister." You say nothing. "She came here to escape it," he continues. But it followed. It always follows. He gathers the bundle and tucks it into his robes. "I prayed. I fasted. I did everything the book said." His voice trembles. Still she died. You ask softly, "Do you think the prayers matter?" "I don't know," he whispers, "but they're all I have left." You walk back together in silence. In the morning, someone nails a parchment to the chapel door. It's not signed. It says, "Quarantine this house," and there's a crude drawing of your shed. You tear it down before your brother can see. The villagers are afraid. You can't blame them, but you can't stay here either. You pack what little you have. 2 crusts of bread, 1 jar of dried mint, the broken horse, a knife dulled from firewood. You tell your brother to keep it all close. "I can walk," he insists. You nod, even though you'll be carrying him again before the day ends. You wait until nightfall, when the last candle dies behind the chapel window, and the last dog's bark fades into the trees. You slip from the shed. The path south is narrow, overgrown wild. It wasn't meant for travel, but it wasn't meant for Plague either. You don't look back. Still, the image of the village haunts you. Its wooden fences, its quiet well, the children you'll never see again, and the rats. You wonder how many more places they'll reach before this is over. If it ever is. Your brother tugs your hand. "Where are we going now?" he asks. You think for a long moment. "Somewhere the rats haven't found yet." He nods. You walk. The stars above shimmer quietly, watching everything below. Rats plague prayers. People too stubborn to give up. For now, that includes you. You find a cave. Not a dramatic torch-lit one out of legends, but a small opening in a hillside barely wide enough for the 2 of you. It's damp, musty, and smells like wet stone and moss. But it's dry. And it doesn't have rats yet. So for now, it's home. You build a small fire just inside the entrance, careful to let the smoke drift upward and out. Your brother huddles close arms around his knees, the carved horse tucked against his chest like a charm. You wrap the last of your cloak around both of you. You haven't seen another soul in 2 days, and that's the best news you've had in a while. The forest around you is quiet, but not dead. Birds sing, Squirrels chatter. Leaves rustle in the breeze. It feels normal. But every sound still feels like a warning. Every crack of a twig tightens your stomach. Your brother asks, "Do you think the village will survive?" You pause. "I hope so." He's quiet for a long time. Then even after they tried to turn us out, you sigh. They were scared. They didn't know. He doesn't reply. Just watches the fire until his eyelids droop. Later, as he sleeps, you step outside and look at the stars again. They seem a little brighter up here, far from city smoke and torchlit streets. You think about your old life, the street you lived on the baker's son, with the lopsided smile, the old woman who sang while sweeping dust that never left. All gone now, or changed beyond knowing. The fire pops. You startle. Just a pine cone. You sit back heart pounding, wondering how long you'll keep living like this. How long anyone will. Historians still argue whether those who fled cities ultimately survived more often than those who stayed. Some escaped infection entirely. Others wandered into hungry villages, starved in the woods, or brought the sickness with them to places it hadn't yet reached. It was never a choice between safety and danger, only between kinds of danger. You find a stream the next day. It trickles down from a rocky ledge, clean and cold. You splash your face, fill your jug, let your brother soak his feet. He smiles for the first time since leaving the village. You pretend not to notice the bruises on his legs, the ones that look like they don't belong. You forage for berries roots. Find a few mushrooms you're reasonably sure won't kill you. Hunger sharpens your instincts, or dulls your fear. Either way, you eat. That night, he sleeps deeper. You lie awake listening to the fire crackle and the wind push through the trees. And somewhere in the dark, just barely, you think you hear singing. You strain your ears. Soft, off-key, familiar. You rise and creep through the underbrush, following the sound. A clearing, a circle of stones, and one lone figure, a woman, rocking gently, humming to no one. She looks up, sees you, doesn't flinch. "I knew someone would come," she says. You pause. "Who are you?" She smiles. "Just someone left behind." Her name is Ellen. She's been living alone for months. Says the sickness took her family. Says she stayed behind to watch the house, then couldn't leave. The house is gone now. Burned deliberately, she admits. Couldn't sleep in walls where ghosts live. She offers you dried herbs. For tea, she says. Good for the throat. You thank her. You don't ask if she's seen anyone else. You already know the answer. Before you leave, she hands you a pouch of dried leaves and berries carefully tied. Not poison, she winks. You smile. We'll bring you food next time. There won't be a next time, she says. You nod. Back at the cave, your brother is awake looking for you. You hand him the pouch. He examines it like a treasure. From someone kind, you say. He nods. He doesn't ask for more. The tea is bitter, earthy, strange, but it warms your belly, so you drink. In the days that follow, you settle into a rhythm. Fetch water, find food, keep the fire alive. You see no one else, but always feel watched. The forest hums with quiet life, but beneath it, something else. Something tense, waiting. And then one morning you find footprints, fresh, too large to be yours, too deep to be wandering game. You crouch beside them, fingers brushing the pressed earth. Someone's near, close. You hurry back to the cave. Your brother sees your face and says nothing, just starts packing. By noon you're walking again, not out of panic, but instinct. It's what people do now. Keep moving. Keep ahead. Like prey trying to outrun a predator, it's never actually seen. You move west toward the hills. The trees thin. The wind sharpens. The world opens up into a wide rolling expanse dotted with wildflowers and ruined farmsteads. There, in the shadow of a broken windmill, you meet them, a group of travelers, maybe 5 in all. Thin, tired, alert. They eye you with the same suspicion you feel in return. But they don't raise weapons. Not yet. One of them steps forward. A woman with sun-browned skin and a dagger on her hip. Where from, she asks. You pause. South. A city. Plague. You nod. We left weeks ago. She studies your brother. He leans on you, coughing quietly. She doesn't look pleased. Not sick, you say quickly. Just weak, tired. They hold a quiet conference, murmurs passed in a circle. Then she nods. One night, no more. You accept. You sit with them that evening, sharing fire and food. They offer barley cakes. You offer herbs. Your brother even laughs once. They don't ask questions, and neither do you. But in the morning, they're gone. No sound. No goodbye. Just flattened grass where they slept. You can't blame them. This is the world now. Trust is a coin no one carries anymore. You and your brother move on. Again, toward whatever comes next. You find work digging. It's not what you planned. Then again, nothing has gone according to plan since the rats first arrived and people started dying with no explanation except God's sin or bad smells. You stumble upon the field one morning, a patch of earth churned to mud from the weight of too many boots and too many bodies. At its edge, a man stands with a shovel in one hand and a look that suggests he no longer cares about much of anything. He sees you, sees your brother, nods once. Can you dig? You shrug. I can try. He hands you the shovel. That's it. No questions about where you've been, who you are, or what might be following you. Just dirt and silence. Your brother rests under a tree nearby. The man gives him bread. Doesn't matter, he mutters. Sick or not, the ground always wants more. You begin digging. The earth is heavy, wet, unwilling. Each shovelful pulls at your back, fills your nose with the scent of rot and old roots. Your hands blister quickly. Your knees ache. Still you dig. By midday, 4 others join you. No one speaks. The work is its own language, scrape, lift, toss. Over and over. The pits are shallow wide. Efficiency matters more than dignity now. You stop asking who's buried where. The markers are gone. Wooden crosses don't last long when there's no one left to tend them. Your brother brings you water in a clay cup. It's lukewarm, tastes faintly of ash. but you're grateful. He sits by a stump, watching the line of wheelbarrows shuffle forward, bodies wrapped in cloth, laid down by hands that no longer flinch. Why do you help? Someone asks. You glance up. It's a boy, no older than 15, shovel in hand, cheeks caked with dirt. You're not from here. Neither are you, you say. He smirks. Doesn't matter. Now does it? Historians still reflect on the burial crews, men and women who took on the most feared job of all. Some volunteered driven by coin guilt or piety. Others were conscripted. Many died within days. A few survived long enough to forget the smell, but not the sound. The sound of cloth brushing against wood, of last breaths that no one waited for. You work until nightfall. You sleep on straw near the edge of the burial field, a fire crackling low beside you. Your brother curls up close. You don't talk. There's nothing left to say. That night, you dream of digging. The hole gets deeper. The earth grows darker. You reach for the surface, but it moves away just out of reach, like the sky doesn't want you back. You wake choking on dust. The man who first handed you the shovel is gone. Went walking, someone mutters. Didn't say why. You take his place. There's comfort in routine. Dig. Rest. Eat a crust. Dig again. You learn to ignore the weight, the silence, the faces. You stop checking the cloths for names. One day a cart arrives with no driver, just the mule, obedient as ever. Inside the cart, 6 bodies. The villagers say the driver died on the way. The mule kept walking. You unload them one by one. You wonder if the mule will remember any of this. Probably not. Animals survive because they don't ask why. You start coughing again, just at night for now. A dry rattle. You hide it. Your brother hears, but says nothing. One evening, you hear singing, low, broken. A hymn, maybe. You follow the sound and find a woman kneeling beside a grave, hands clasped tight, lips trembling. She was my sister, she says. You don't ask what happened. You just stand beside her until the song ends. Later, she brings you a scarf. It was hers, she says. You look cold. You want to refuse, but she's already walking away. You keep digging. One morning, the ground is frozen. Your shovel hits ice. Sparks fly. A man curses. Another weeps. No one stops. They pile stones when the dirt won't give. Your brother helps stack them. His hands are raw, cracked and small, but steady. That night, you sit by the fire with the others. Someone tells a joke. It's not funny, but you all laugh anyway, not because it's good, but because laughter still exists. And that's rare enough to protect. Historians note that during plague years, laughter often appeared in strange places, gallows, graveyards, sickbeds. Humor became armor, a way to say, we're not gone yet. The boy with the smirk brings out a bone flute, plays a rough tune. A woman claps. Another hums along. You close your eyes, listening. For a moment, it sounds like life again. But the music stops when the cart rolls in. 10 bodies this time. 3 of them small. No one speaks. You dig until your arms give out. Your brother helps you to the straw. covers you with the scarf. You hear him whispering something. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a lullaby. You sleep. In the dream, the earth breathes. You don't know if it's exhaling or waiting to inhale you. You wake to the smell of baking, not the comforting kind, not cinnamon or fresh bread or butter melting on a hearth. No, this is something else. A sharp, sour odor, like flour gone bad, an oil that's been reused too many times. You follow the scent to a makeshift oven, just a stack of stones with fire underneath flames licking the sides. A man you don't recognize kneels beside it, pulling out a flat, scorched circle of dough. He looks up, grins with soot-covered teeth, and says, "Still better than dying." You don't disagree. Food has taken on strange meanings lately. Some say hunger wards off the plague. Others insist on eating onions with every meal or fasting on Fridays or only touching food that's been salted thrice. Everyone has a ritual. Everyone's clinging to some thread of control. You chew the bread. It's hard enough to chip a tooth, but warm. That counts for something. Your brother sits nearby, trying to tie a loose knot in his bootlace. He's steadier now. Paler than he should be, but walking, helping alive. You've stopped waiting for him to collapse. Not because you believe he won't, but because you've run out of energy for fear. The man with the oven nods to a few newcomers. More of them arriving every day, he mutters. Refugees, survivors, or at least people who think they are. You glance up. A family of 4 stands at the edge of the field. Tired eyes, cracked lips, sunken cheeks. The father holds a walking stick like a weapon. The mother carries a child strapped to her back. None of them speak. You walk over and offer them your last crust. They hesitate, then accept. No words, just nods. The new language of the world. Later, you learn their names, or what's left of them. The boy's called Little Wren. His real name's forgotten, but he chirps like a bird in his sleep, so the name stuck. His sister doesn't talk, just stares. That night, everyone eats together. 10 people, 1 pot of something watery, and a dozen stories no one wants to tell. Someone passes around a jug of vinegar wine. Rough stuff. You sip and wince. Your brother coughs after 1 drop. The group laughs. It feels like something. Like what taverns used to be. Someone starts telling tales. One man says he saw a house where no one had died. Just vanished. Furniture still there. Soup on the table. A dog still barking in the yard. No bodies. No signs. Just silence. A woman swears she saw a plague in the sky clouds that moved like they were hunting, dipping into villages and rising again satisfied. Another insists rats have learned to avoid poisoned grain, that they're evolving, smarter now, almost organized. Historians will call these stories folklore grief, turned into narrative fear, given shape. But sitting there beneath stars and smoke, you start to believe them. Your brother laughs quietly at the cloud story, then coughs again, just once. Dry, but enough to turn heads. You notice, so do they. No one says anything, but the air changes. Next morning, you find your bedding moved. Slightly. Just a few inches farther from the others. You say nothing. You gather wood, stoke the fire, dig a little, watch a little. You feel eyes on you all day. Not cruel, just wary. You can't blame them. You cough once. Just a tickle. But you turn away when you do. That night, the wind picks up. A storm rolls in, fast and loud, shaking the tarps, rattling the loose tin, sending ash spiraling into the dark. Everyone huddles beneath whatever they can find. You and your brother crawl under an old wagon, shielded by sacks of grain that probably should have been eaten weeks ago. The rain drums above you. "Tell me something nice," he whispers. You think for a moment. Once you say, "We had a cat." He chuckles. "She hated everyone but you add. Used to sleep in your boots." "I remember," he says. "She bit your toe." "Deserved it." You both smile, tucked under a wagon, hiding from a storm, from a world you barely recognize. The next morning, the camp has changed. One of the newcomers is dead. Old man. Didn't even have a name, just a limp and a cough and a habit of staring into the fire too long. They find him cold stiff, still holding a piece of bread. They bury him by the edge of the field. No sermon. Just a moment of silence and a half-hearted hymn. You say nothing, just dig a little deeper. Later, the bread oven collapses. The stones give out. The man curses, blames spirits or rot, or maybe just fate. You help rebuild it. Your brother watches from a distance, one hand pressed to his chest. That evening, the priest arrives. Not yours. A new one. Younger. Cloak too clean. Eyes too bright. He offers prayers, blessings, rules. Confession is salvation, he says. Obedience is protection. You can feel the tension rise. People want comfort, but they don't want to be told what to do anymore. That was before. Before rats and boils and burials. He says the bread must be blessed. He says the sick must be separated. He says survival requires sacrifice. You look at your brother, thin, tired, still coughing. You know what's coming. That night, someone nails a note to the broken wagon. Keep the sick away. The ink bleeds in the rain. But the meaning stays. You don't sleep. You keep watch. You consider leaving again. Running again. But where? You've run out of roads. You wake to silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the soft hush before morning bird song. This silence is heavy thick. A warning. No fires crackling. No spoons clinking in bowls. No footsteps in the mud. Your brother sleeps beside you, curled beneath the tattered wool. He's breathing shallow, but steady. You crawl out from under the wagon and scan the camp. 3 tents are missing, gone without a trace, not collapsed, not packed, just missing. The priest's cross still hangs from the central post, swaying gently in the breeze. But he's nowhere to be seen. You find a half-eaten loaf left on a crate, a clear sign of hasty departure. No one in this world abandons food on purpose. A woman named Ilsa, who'd arrived a few days before, stands near the edge of the field, arms folded. She nods at you, then glances toward the path leading west. They left before dawn, she says. Said it was safer to move before. before it spreads. You don't ask what she means. You already know. She points to your brother without speaking. You nod once. You're too tired for lies. Will you go? She asks. You shake your head. Then I'll stay too, she says. You don't know her. She doesn't know you. But the offer sits between you like a candle in the dark. By midday, more people start to drift away. Not all at once, but in twos and threes. The quiet ones go first, then the ones with children. No one announces it. No one asks for permission. They just gather what they can and disappear. You dig again. The ground here is softer. The rain helped. 2 more bodies this morning. An old woman who'd stopped eating, and the priest. They say he was found slumped beside the bread oven, hands clasped around his cross eyes wide open. No one says much. Some murmur about judgment, others about relief. You bury him without a marker. It's better that way. Historians still debate whether authority structures collapsed or merely transformed during plague years. Priests and nobles fled or fell ill. New leaders emerged, grave diggers, herbalists, those with strong backs and sharper instincts. In a world ruled by death, practicality replaced hierarchy. That evening, your brother has a fever. You press your hand to his forehead and feel the slow boil beneath his skin. He doesn't open his eyes. You crush herbs in a clay bowl, pour hot water and dribble the brew into his mouth. Most of it spills. He coughs once, then sighs. You watch the sky through the cracks in the wagon's frame. Clouds are building again. Another storm is coming. You whisper stories to him through the night, of the cat who slept in his boots, of the baker who once gave you both a roll still warm, of the time he climbed a tree just to see the rooftops and got stuck for hours. He smiles in his sleep. You cling to that smile like a lifeline. In the morning, the camp is almost empty. Just you, Ilsa, and 2 others, a man who lost his voice weeks ago, and a girl who won't look anyone in the eye. The man builds a fire. The girl curls up beneath a tarp, clutching a rag doll missing an arm. The wind picks up. The air feels charged. You check your brother's fever, still rising. You soak a cloth, place it on his head. Whisper nonsense. Sing half-remembered lullabies. That night, he mumbles something. You lean in. Are we still alive? He breathes. You pause. Yes. For now. For now. He closes his eyes again. You don't sleep. You sit by the fire, staring at the flames, waiting for the dawn or the end, whichever comes first. Ilsa sits beside you. You don't have to stay. You don't answer. She lays a hand on your shoulder. Not heavy, not insistent. Just there. I had a brother, she says. Long ago. Before any of this. He was loud, always in trouble. He once stole a whole basket of apples just to make me smile. You glance at her. He died in the first wave, she says. Didn't even get to run. You nod. There's nothing to say. The fire crackles. She tosses in a dry twig. Do you think the world will go back? You think about that. About taverns full of song, markets buzzing, schools, weddings, bread that doesn't break teeth, water that doesn't smell like fear. No, you whisper. But maybe it'll become something else. She smiles faintly. I hope it's better, she says. The next morning, your brother wakes. His fever is lower. his eyes brighter, his voice rough but stronger. You cry, silently, carefully, so he doesn't see. Ilsa brings broth. He eats. It's not over, but it's something. Later, you walk beyond the camp. The road stretches out rutted and cracked, lined with wildflowers and weeds, reclaiming stone. Birds flit between branches. A deer watches from a distance. Life, still here, still trying. You return to the camp and see your brother sitting up humming to himself. A broken tune, but still music, still hope. You wake to silence, not the peaceful kind, not the soft hush before morning bird song. This silence is heavy thick, a warning. No fires crackling, no spoons clinking in bowls, no footsteps in the mud. Your brother sleeps beside you, curled beneath the tattered wool. He's breathing shallow, but steady. You crawl out from under the wagon and scan the camp. 3 tents are missing, gone without a trace, not collapsed, not packed, just missing. The priest's cross still hangs from the central post, swaying gently in the breeze, but he's nowhere to be seen. You find a half-eaten loaf left on a crate, a clear sign of hasty departure. No one in this world abandons food on purpose. A woman named Ilsa, who'd arrived a few days before, stands near the edge of the field, arms folded. She nods at you, then glances toward the path leading west. They left before dawn, she says. Said it was safer to move before it spreads. You don't ask what she means. You already know. She points to your brother without speaking. You nod once. You're too tired for lies. Will you go, she asks. You shake your head. Then I'll stay too, she says. You don't know her. She doesn't know you. But the offer sits between you like a candle in the dark. By midday, more people start to drift away, not all at once, but in 2s and 3s. The quiet ones go first, then the ones with children. No one announces it. No one asks for permission. They just gather what they can and disappear. You dig again. The ground here is softer. The rain helped. 2 more bodies this morning. An old woman who'd stopped eating, and the priest. They say he was found slumped beside the bread oven, hands clasped around his cross eyes wide open. No one says much. Some murmur about judgment, others about relief. You bury him without a marker. It's better that way. Historians still debate whether authority structures collapsed or merely transformed during plague years. Priests and nobles fled or fell ill. New leaders emerged, gravediggers, herbalists, those with strong backs and sharper instincts. In a world ruled by death, practicality replaced hierarchy. That evening your brother has a fever. You press your hand to his forehead and feel the slow boil beneath his skin. He doesn't open his eyes. You crush herbs in a clay bowl, pour hot water, and dribble the brew into his mouth. Most of it spills. He coughs once, then sighs. You watch the sky through the cracks in the wagon's frame. Clouds are building again. Another storm is coming. You whisper stories to him through the night, of the cat who slept in his boots, of the baker who once gave you both a roll still warm, of the time he climbed a tree just to see the rooftops and got stuck for hours. He smiles in his sleep. You cling to that smile like a lifeline. In the morning, the camp is almost empty. Just you, Ilsa, and 2 others, a man who lost his voice weeks ago, and a girl who won't look anyone in the eye. The man builds a fire. The girl curls up beneath a tarp, clutching a rag doll missing an arm. The wind picks up. The air feels charged. You check your brother's fever, still rising. You soak a cloth, place it on his head. Whisper nonsense. Sing half-remembered lullabies. That night, he mumbles something. You lean in. Are we still alive? He breathes. You pause. Yes. For now. For now. He closes his eyes again. You don't sleep. You sit by the fire, staring at the flames, waiting for the dawn. Or the end, whichever comes first. Ilsa sits beside you. You don't have to stay. You don't answer. She lays a hand on your shoulder. Not heavy, not insistent, just there. I had a brother, she says, long ago. Before any of this, he was loud, always in trouble. He once stole a whole basket of apples just to make me smile. You glance at her. He died in the first wave, she says. Didn't even get to run. You nod. There's nothing to say. The fire crackles. She tosses in a dry twig. Do you think the world will go back? You think about that, about taverns full of song, markets buzzing, schools, weddings, bread that doesn't break teeth, water that doesn't smell like fear. No, you whisper. But maybe it'll become something else. She smiles faintly. I hope it's better, she says. The next morning, your brother wakes. His fever is lower. His eyes brighter. His voice rough, but stronger. You cry. Silently. Carefully. So he doesn't see. Ilsa brings broth. He eats. It's not over, but it's something. Later, you walk beyond the camp. The road stretches out, rutted and cracked, lined with wildflowers and weeds reclaiming stone. Birds flit between branches. A deer watches from a distance. Life, still here, still trying. You return to the camp and see your brother sitting up humming to himself. A broken tune, but still music, still hope. The next morning, the stranger is gone. No goodbye. No rustling of cloaks. Just the faint outline of footprints in the soft earth and a half-burned candle where he had sat. But he left the notebook. It rests by the fire, bound in cracked leather, the pages filled with uneven writing and ink smudges. You flip through it slowly. Your name is there. So is your brother's. Ilsa's, Mira's, even Alric in quiet little sentences. He wrote everything. You sit for a long while, notebook in your lap, listening to the crackle of the morning fire and the gentle rhythm of your brother's breath. For the first time in weeks, the camp feels still, not silent, but still. Like something has settled. I didn't think anyone would care, Ilsa says quietly behind you. You nod. I think that's why he did it. Later, you begin building the fence. It's just twigs and branches tied together with rope. Nothing that would stop a determined goat, let alone a person. But it's something. A line. A boundary. A decision. Your brother helps. So does Mira, dragging bundles of sticks twice her size with a kind of stubborn determination that only children and survivors possess. Ilsa ties knots. You stake corners. When it's finished, it circles your small camp like a necklace, fragile, handmade, protective, in ways that have nothing to do with strength. That night you sit within it and feel contained, not trapped, just gathered. Mira calls it our circle. The name sticks. The notebook is placed on a flat stone at the center of camp. An offering, a memorial, a seed. You decide to add to it, not just names, but drawings, maps, recipes, little things you remember from before, how to mend a shoe, how to boil elderberries, how to tell the weather from the smell of dirt. Each page becomes a patch of memory stitched into paper. Your brother adds a sketch of the baker's shop. He's not good at drawing, but that doesn't matter. The chimney is crooked. The bread looks like rocks, but it's there. It existed, and now it always will. Historians would later find journals like these, tucked into walls, buried in jars, sewn into cloaks. Some were lists, some were poems, some were just names over and over, desperate to keep someone remembered. No one wrote for fame. They wrote because forgetting felt like dying again. One morning, Mira finds a trail of stones leading into the woods. You all follow it. It winds through trees, past the stream, around the old road, until it ends at a clearing. In the center, a pile of wildflowers, arranged carefully, like a bouquet, placed on an invisible grave. No one speaks. You leave the stones alone. You understand what they mean. Back at camp, things begin to grow. The herbs Ilsa planted sprout tiny green shoots. Mira learns to weave nets from grass. Your brother adds a second room to the lean-to, a crooked shelter, but sturdy enough to keep out wind. You catch yourself humming once while gathering firewood. You stop immediately startled, but no one laughs. Your brother starts collecting feathers, not for any reason, just because they're soft. He lines his bed with them and calls it his cloud. One night, he gives you one, a small gray feather, curved like a smile. For you, he says. In case the dreams get dark again, you tuck it into the notebook. The weather turns colder. The fire becomes your center. You stay close to it. So do the others. You eat more slowly. Talk more softly. Share old stories again, even the ones you've told 3 times. They're warmer the 4th. Then one morning, a noise startles you awake. Footsteps. Dozens. You rise, heart racing, grabbing your knife. But when you reach the path, you stop. A caravan is approaching. People. At least 20. Dirty, tired, weary. Some wounded. Some carrying children. They stop at your fence. You meet them with Ilsa and your brother at your side. Safe, one woman asks. You nod. For now, a man steps forward cradling a bundle. A baby swaddled in rags. He says nothing. Just looks at you like he's been walking forever and forgot how to ask for kindness. You open the gate. They trickle in, slowly, silently, like water finding a basin. Mira offers a bowl of berries to a child. Your brother gives a man his feather without explanation. Ilsa tears cloth to wrap someone's bleeding hand. You stir the pot. Add water. Divide the bread thinner. You give what you can, and somehow it's enough. That night, you sit by the fire, You look around at your growing circle, no longer just survivors, but something like a beginning. You take the notebook. You write, "Today they came. We fed them. We let them stay. We are not gone yet." Then you close the book, lean back against the shelter, and look up at the stars. They're still there, still watching, still shining. The snow falls without warning. One morning, you wake to a quiet so complete it steals your breath. The world outside the lean-to is white. Thick flakes drift slowly, peacefully, as if the sky has decided to wrap the earth in a soft blanket and whisper, "Rest." Your brother is already awake, standing in the clearing with his palms open to the sky. He doesn't say anything, just smiles as snowflakes melt on his skin. You pull the wool blanket tighter around your shoulders and step out into the hush. Every sound feels muted. Even your footsteps are absorbed into the snow. Mira giggles somewhere behind you, making lopsided footprints as she chases flakes like fireflies. It's beautiful, it's cold, and it's a warning. Winter has arrived, and with it new choices. Inside the camp, the newcomers are building more shelters. Tents patched with canvas lean-tos made from salvaged wood, even a few mud walls taking shape near the southern end. People move with quiet urgency. Every log, every scrap of cloth, every crumb is accounted for. Ilsa has taken on the role of planner. She's mapped where each group sleeps, how long supplies might last, where to dig if more graves are needed. She doesn't ask for permission. She just acts. You're grateful for that. You focus on keeping the fire going, on boiling water, on checking pulses, eyes' temperatures, small things, repeating things, things that keep hands busy and thoughts quieter. The notebook grows heavier. More names, more dates, more drawings, some joyful, some heartbreaking. One child draws their old home in detail, a 3-room cottage, a blue door, a smiling dog. Their father adds a small note beneath it, lost in the second wave. You don't correct his grammar. One night someone sings again, an old lullaby from the coast, a tune you don't know, but your brother hums along softly. Others join in. The melody is slow, almost mournful, but not hopeless. That's how things are now. Not hopeless, just hard. Historians debate when the plague truly ended. Some say it simply faded. Others say it evolved, retreated, waited. But what most agree on is that life resumed long before the sickness left. People rebuilt not because it was safe, but because they had to. And so do you. You mend boots with a curved needle made from bone. You trade a sack of dried mushrooms for half a roll of twine. You find a cracked mirror buried near an old road and place it by the fire so children can see their faces again. Your brother builds a stool. It wobbles. You sit on it anyway. One morning, a child is born. It's not easy. It's not quiet, but it happens. The mother screams. The fire flares. And then there's crying. Tiny, shrill, furious crying. You've never heard anything so alive. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. This is a turning. Not an end. Not a cure, but a moment. You wrap the child in Mira's blanket. She doesn't complain. just watches wide-eyed, clutching her doll like it might jump in to help. Ilsa whispers, "A girl." You whisper hope. That night, you open the notebook. You write the baby's name first, on a fresh page, in larger script than usual. Then born in winter, among the living. You underline it twice. Snow keeps falling. You start collecting it in pots to melt for water. It's clean, cold, and it saves you from hiking to the stream when the wind bites too hard. Your brother spends his days helping repair the bread oven. It's mostly stones and guesswork, but it holds heat again. Enough to crisp a few acorns and warm the thin loaves you bake from flour salt and stubbornness. He laughs more now, grows taller. The cough is gone. Mira starts talking in full sentences again, aloud, with others. One day, she says, "I'm not scared anymore," and no one corrects her. You still worry, of course. Some nights, you wake with your heart pounding. Sometimes you flinch when someone sneezes. The fear never leaves completely, but it stops running your life. One evening, Ilsa pulls out something wrapped in cloth. A book, not the notebook, a real book. From before. Leather binding, faded lettering. A collection of stories. She reads aloud by firelight. Not lessons, not rules, just tales. Kings, tricksters, magic pots that cook themselves, horses that fly. Children gather around. Adults listen too. You watch their faces lit by fire, by story, by memory, and you realize something strange. They're smiling, not politely, not to comfort anyone, just smiling. You add that to the notebook too. Later, you help build a shelf from old crates. You place the book on it next to the notebook. Your brother adds his feather beside them. Mira ties a ribbon around the post to mark it. The shelf becomes your library. It has 2 books, 1 feather, and a story for anyone who wants it. The next morning, someone comes from the east. A man with frost in his beard, leading a tired horse. He carries a bundle of letters, real letters, written by hand, sealed in wax, stamped with strange symbols. He says other camps are out there, villages rebuilding, bridges repaired, walls raised again, not to keep out sickness, but to hold in community. He tells of healers, traveling, of scribes, collecting stories of old towns reclaiming names. He says it's not over, but it's different now. You let him rest, feed him, warm him, listen. When he leaves, he promises to return with paper, with news, with thread to sew your world into something larger. You return to the notebook. Write one more line. We stayed. We helped. We remembered. Then you close it. For now, because the fire needs tending, and the bread is almost ready, and your brother is laughing, and winter is long, but you are longer. Now the snow has quieted. The wind softened. The fire's glow is steady low and warm. You pull the blanket up higher, tucking it beneath your chin, your muscles gently unwinding. The world outside the circle may still carry weight, but here it eases. A soft breath beside you, your brother already asleep. Mira's doll rests on a folded cloth. The feather on the bookshelf shifts in the breeze, like it remembers something gentle. The notebook lies closed now, full but never finished. A story still writing itself with every whispered dream, every shared crust, every time someone chooses kindness when it would be easier to look away. Tonight, the wind brings no warning, only hush, so let your breath slow. Let the stories settle. You are warm. You are safe. You are remembered. Sleep now. Sleep well. The world will still be here when you wake.